Happy Friday, everybody. Everyone who's here watching live, and happy whatever day it is if you're watching the replay. So I'm really excited about this, you guys. This is one of my favorite crafts that I've made in the last year, and that is why I decided to bring it back and go ahead and do a whole video tutorial, a make along, so that you guys can learn how to make these because they are so easy. So we're going to get into that, but before we do, I'm going to pass it over to Emily real quick, and she can tell you how to ask questions in real time so we can get all the answers and you can know how to do these. All right.
Hi everyone. So if you want to join our live chat today, you can either join us on our website, or if you're on YouTube, just follow the link below in the description and it will take you over to where you can join our live chat. If you have any questions, just go ahead and click the ask button and that will shoot it over to me so I can ask Leah here in the office and we can get that answered for you.
All right. So I do know there were a couple questions to start with, so I will jump on those as soon as I go over all the tools and materials, or while I'll do it. Okay, so tools and materials today. I do have 2 pairs of scissors, and I think the big key for this project, especially when you're cutting the honeycomb, is you need some really sharp scissors. So I'll get into that in a minute, but I do have my detail scissors, and I have my craft scissors, and of course we love Kai brand, that's our favorite. Needle nose pliers wire cutters, and that's to cut the wire. I do have my zigzag pinking shears, and these are the 3mm, so they're smaller than most pinking shears. And of course we sell all this stuff over at Felt Paper Scissors, our shop, feltpaperscissors.com. I have my needle nose tweezers, and I have, this is the art glitter glue, which I peeled off the label. But anyway, that's what it is. You can also use any white craft glue. That will work. I have a hot glue gun. That's important. It's all plugged in and ready to go. And then for materials, I have here the eggnog color heavy crepe paper, and that's really important. I feel like the heavy made the best mushroom tops and mushroom sides. And then I have here the cream honeycomb. And I do want to, that was a question that came up earlier. We did, go ahead, Emily.
I just wanted to correct you really quickly. It's actually the snowflake crepe paper, heavy crepe and cream, not
eggnog.
Eggnog okay. Is from our Christmas collection.
I know. Okay, snowflake is the same color. I think this was just an old packaging. My apologies. Yeah. So whatever matches, you just want kind of a match. So yes, and thanks for doing that, Emily. And the honeycomb, we did run out of this last week, but we did get a new shipment in. So note that we have the cream at this point. However, the white also looks beautiful. And again, I would just match your crepe paper to a lighter color so that it matches really nicely. This honeycomb paper is so much fun to use. So, all right, so that's that material. Then I have the 24 gauge white wire, and this is what I'm going to use for my moths. I'm only using these for moths, so if you're not making moths, you don't need that. And then I have my thick stem wire, and that's what I'll use as the base for the mushrooms. So that is the materials. I'll go ahead and move those out. I also have printed here, and you guys can print this and have it available. If you want to go back and review, or you can always review the video, and that's the whole step-by-step tutorial. There we go, somewhere. There we go. That you can print out and have that on hand as well. And let's see. Oh, there it is. Okay. So we have the template here. You can print it out. I will tell you, this is not a project I would cut out on a cutting machine. So not worth it. These little, rectangles are so easy to cut by hand. And the honeycomb doesn't really cut on the cutting machine at all. If you have a laser cutter, they will cut on the laser cutter, but not on a cutting machine. So this is a perfect make it by hand project. So as you can see here, I've cut out all of my bits and pieces, and note how I'm using the clips, the mini clips, to hold the pattern onto each piece so that I can keep them straight, because there's a lot of pieces. I love these little mini clips, so I definitely recommend that. But I want to show you a couple things about cutting this honeycomb.
And
yes.
Kelly actually asked a question about this, but go ahead and just talk about it.
No, go for it. Let's ask the questions first. Then I can.
She just said, doesn't matter which direction you cut the honeycomb paper in and which flat edge you use, vertical or horizontal.
Yes, okay, it does matter. The honeycomb is a little bit trickier. So this is where I cut it the incorrect way. And you can see how it just makes this sort of accordion shape, and that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is something that looks like this. And that is a honeycomb versus an accordion. So as you can see, I've made a mistake a few times. Those are all cut incorrectly. The way you can tell is go ahead and pull out your honeycomb. You can see one edge is the straight edge, and then the other direction is the honeycomb direction. And you'll want to, now what you'll do is the straight edge, put it towards you, and then you'll put your honeycomb flat edge, which I'm going to demonstrate right here. I'll put my honeycomb flat edge along the sides. So if the straight edge is here, the honeycomb edges are here, you'll put it on the side, not onto the top or bottom. And I'm putting the flat edge of my template onto the edge there. And then I have found what works best, because honeycomb, it's a lot of layers. Just cut out a piece. Don't worry about the exactness at this point. And I'm using my big scissors for this. And then I might flip over to my smaller scissors and go ahead and just cut around the side. And it really does help to have the clip, but I'm using my fingers to pinch as I go. And I will tell you, if it's not perfect, it's okay, because we are going to, stretch it out at the end. So do the best you can. Again, sharp scissors make a great option. Let's double check and make sure I did that correctly, because I sometimes make mistakes, but there we go. There's our honeycomb. So that's what we're looking for. All right, let's see if I did it right on all of them, because it's been a year since I've made this, you guys. All right, let's start with our big mushroom first. So for the extra large, and medium mushroom, there will be 4 pieces. Make sure I have them all. Okay, so there'll be 1 honeycomb piece, and then there'll be 3 of the crepe paper pieces. And it's very, very important that you guys follow that grain line on each of the pieces. So I can go ahead and take the pattern off. And the first thing that I will do is this extra large mushroom top. I'll start with that, and I'm going to take my white glue. You can use hot glue, but I do personally prefer the white glue for this. I'm going to just add a line of white glue on the side and give it a nice tight seal so that it's completely this loop. Now, before you glue it, you can add the pinking shear edge, or you can do it at this point, either way. So I've really, really pressed it in, and that will give it a nice seal and it won't pop out. You can use a scallop pinking shear. You don't have to use the zigzag, either one. It just adds a nice little finish. Okay, then I'm going to take a piece of my crepe paper, and we're going to actually be using quite a bit of this crepe paper to wrap stems and do some other things. I'm going to stretch it out all the way, 100% or 250%. So it's fully stretched. And I'm going to make some small circles. If you feel like you need a template for this, you can, or just do it by hand. It's pretty easy to eyeball. You can see how I'm holding my scissors straight in my right hand and then just moving my left hand, moving the crepe with the left hand to cut these small circles. And I'm kind of spiraling down to get the size that I like. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to take the edge that I've given my, oh, that was white. Okay, never mind. See, it's been a year. Okay, never mind the step about the pinking shears. I'll show you in a minute. I guess I could have read my instructions too. So I'm going to stretch out the side that I pinked, which we're going to repink. And then very carefully, we're going to press it down and make it a full circle. Emily, are you laughing at me?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm
yeah.
really curious to see how you make these. I've been wondering since you made them last year.
Yes.
They look like magic over there.
They do. I just love these. Okay, so I have my one little circle, and here I am trying to hold the mushroom. Okay, I'm going to give up. I'm going to place a nice smooth amount of glue on that little circle. All right. I need another set of hands.
Do you need some help?
No, I can do it. Okay, so I'm going to create as nice of a flat piece as possible. And I love it that it's curling up here, but you can see how I want my little gathers to be as even as possible. So it looks nice. And then I'll take my glued side of my circle and I'll just place it onto that center and then press it down. And ideally, you know, you don't want a big hole in the center. I have a bit of one, but you know, just kind of work it. And then you can pop it over and do the other side. And on this side, you might be able to get it in the bit smoother. I'll use my little needle nose tweezers here to move some things around.
Yeah, can you keep your head back?
Oh yes, sorry.
It's delicate work.
It's delicate. It's hard to do. It's hard to do it at long distance here, but you don't need to see the top of my head. All right, give it some glue. And then place that on the back side. And again, just really press it down so it's nice and sealed, and then you can set it aside to dry. Okay, the next thing you'll want to do is take, let's see here, oh, here it is. Okay, so you'll take this shorter piece, which is the stem flare, and we'll go ahead and stretch just the edge of that to give it a flare, and that's ready to go onto your mushroom. Okay, then I'm going to take the edge of my crepe paper, and you guys, if you've been around, you've seen me do this a million times. I'm going to take the edge of my crepe paper and cut off about I don't know, maybe, what is that? I'll give you a measurement. You can do a bit wider as well. I would say about 1/2 inch, maybe a little less than 1/2 inch. That one might be a thinner version, because you'll want some different widths. I think for the stem you can do 1/2 inch, and then when you get down to the base you'll want a thinner one. So I have myself 2 different strips, and I'm going to decide here, oh no, I don't need to decide because I have it right here. I'm going to cut my wire about the same length as my paper here, and you can see that it's mushroom. But before I put this paper on, you know what, I just used the wrong piece. Okay, I'm totally dorking out here today, you guys. Can I laugh at myself? All right, pause. Okay, actually use this piece, the small piece that is the stem, and go ahead and cut it the same length. Are there any questions, Emily?
No. Oh wait, yes.
Okay.
Would a small hole punch work to cut the circles?
Possibly. You could try. It depends on how strong your hole punch is. And
Yeah, it looks a little big for a hole punch. If you have a bigger size
Yeah.
hole punch, it would work. But you can always give it a go and see
Yeah.
if it works.
And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle. You know, it could be a bit more of an oval. So I'm taking my strip of paper here and adding a bit of glue. And as I wrap it around the stem, I will stretch it just a bit, not a lot, because it's easier to thicken it up faster if you don't stretch it quite as much. And I just want to thicken the stem enough to make this mushroom look like it's thick enough to hold, you know, the mushroom top. So it's not quite as top heavy. So you can go up and down a few times if you want to. So I'll show you about what I would think is the right thickness. I find it easy to just run a bead of glue down the whole wire, and then I can wrap right on top of that. And sometimes I get glue on my fingers. You can leave a little less crepe paper at the very top because you will be placing that into the honeycomb. So that's 2 layers, and I think I'll go ahead and do 3. I do think this little craft here is such an easy one. I believe young crafters could make this. Maybe not super young, but tweens possibly could make this. Make sure that's all in place. And then I'll take my long strip here, and you can see how the grain line goes long. You don't want it going sideways. You want it to be long so that it moves along with the actual stem itself. And ideally, you want it to be a bit snug. So I would say go ahead and glue one edge. So just place a line of glue and glue one edge in place. Compress that in nice and tight. And then I'm going to just sort of snug it up so, so that both of the edges touch and it's completely wrapped. And then I'll add another bead of glue. So you can stretch it just a bit so that it will fit nicely around that stem.
Francis says, I get glue on my fingers all the time when making flowers, so you're not alone.
I just embrace it, man. This is why Megan, she always has such beautiful fingernails. I can't do it. I just can't. I don't know how she does it. Maybe she can teach me someday. Between crafting and gardening, it's just a disaster. Okay, so that looks good. Just gonna set that aside and let that dry for a minute before I add this. And then, okay, here we go with the pinking shears. This is the time where you take out the pinking shears. Otherwise, the little scallops are a bit big. And see how nice that looks? Just take off the very, very fine edge. All right, tell me what do you guys think of our lives being at noon rather than 11 Pacific time? I know you all are in different time zones. I would love to hear back from you on if this is a good fit for you all. I'm not going to use that one because that's pretty choppy. That's the one that's incorrect. Okay, here's the correct one. So right now I'm going to make sure I have the correct version of the honeycomb. I'll add some glue onto one side. You don't need a lot. This is actually made from tissue paper, so it's pretty delicate. And then you're going to, as best as you can, flip it around and glue it on itself. And this is where you can go in with your tweezers. I just noticed I have glue all over my hand here. And slide your tweezers between and give it a nice pinch. And I would just let that sit and dry for just a few minutes, because once you open it up, you don't want it to pop open. So that's ready, that's ready. We're going to go back to the stem. And I'll just say, you guys, you don't have to do it in the order that I'm doing it in. I'm sort of jumping around a bit, but I do like to allow things to have time to dry. Thanks, Emily. I know my glue is squeezing out the base there. Thank you. Tip, make sure that your glue top is tight. Okay, so I added just a bit of glue onto the edge there, and I will wrap it around the thinner top and actually put the glued edge over the top of this flare piece. And the only place that you really need it to be attached is at the very, very top. So I'll just make sure that happens. Give it a nice squeeze. And I'm going to take my needle nose tweezers and give it just a bit more flare. Now these are called, what are they? Poison top mushroom, or what are they, Emily? What's the name that I fashioned these off of?
What?
The name of these mushrooms, the
I'm
type
actually
of mushroom.
not sure.
Okay, well, it's some sort of poisonous mushroom, and I thought, you know, it's kind of Halloween, you might as well. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so I think this is good. It's ready to open up. And what we'll do is just kind of go into one side or the other and flatten it out like this. And at this point, you can go in and pull it apart a bit, make sure that it's looking pretty good. Okay, I think I'm a major big fail today, you guys. Can I laugh at myself? Hold on one sec. Set this aside. We're going to cut this over. Hopefully you have patience. All right, so let's cut these over again. I did make a big mistake today. Note to self, make sure that you make the project you made a year ago ahead of time before video so that you don't do this. You can get a lot of mushroom tops out of this. It does say on the piece to cut 3. So I was opening it up and I'm like, wait a second, that looks kind of funny. So we're gonna go ahead and cut 3. Can you tell I have vacation brain? I'm about ready to take a little much needed break. Emily, laugh with me, please.
Oh yeah, you're doing great.
I'm feeling embarrassed.
I think that it's nice for some people to see that it takes a couple tries sometimes, even for the people that made it.
Yeah. Nothing like being on live video and totally messing up, but oh well. So I'll go ahead and cut 3, and you'll want to glue the 3 together because as you can see with this one, the honeycomb was just way too stretched out and we want it to look like this. And so that will give you a good picture.
Yeah, exactly. People agree that it makes you human.
I'm very human. All right. Again, it's much easier to cut the honeycomb into smaller pieces and then use your sharp scissors to get the exact shape, then try to cut it straight off of the honeycomb. And like I said, you can get so many mushrooms from just one piece. So, you know, if you cut it the wrong direction or do what I did, no worries. I think also sometimes when we design crafts and we make them, we become so confident in ourselves that we forget to read the directions. Like, hello, I'm going to try to practice what I preach here and read my directions. Okay, so this makes it actually much easier. You can go ahead and just add some glue onto one and then stack the next one. Make sure you're going the right direction. I think one side is a bit pointier than the other. And I want to show you guys how these cuts are really not perfect. Like they're a little bit jaggy on the edge. Let me show that to you. Can you see that? But when you open it up, you really can't see it. It's such a forgiving material. Okay, I'm going to press them together to get a nice seal and then make it loop around. And it's so much easier now. I was kind of struggling last time to get it to match itself. So you can see how I'm doing that. I placed it right on the edge and then just sort of sandwich it down. Line it up and then go back in with your tweezers and kind of pinch those little honeycombs so it gives it a nice seal. Okay, I'm not going to let it dry, but we're going to pretend I did. Now when I open it up, I'll go ahead and pull it apart, just like I said, to kind of even out all of the honeycomb. This looks so much better. And the question is, on some of the mushrooms, which direction? So this one is pretty easy because you have kind of a dome on one side and then you have a flat side. And we're going to put the mushroom onto the flat side. So what I like to do for this is actually use hot glue. And you have to work fast. So I have it ready. I have my flat side facing up. I'm going to add quite a bit of glue just right here in the center. I'm not actually going all the way to the edge at this point. If I need extra points of attachment, I'll do that after. And then I'll very carefully drop that right inside. And you can adjust it before it cools off to make sure that it's sitting the way you like it. And then if you feel like you want to attach some of these little edges, go ahead and use your white glue. I'm just dropping some white glue dots, and then I'll press down the edge. And it probably helps to just hold it for a few minutes, not even that long, maybe 30 seconds. Kind of hold it between your fingers so that it will attach. And just like nature, if this were absolutely perfect and every single one of these honeycombs was evenly spaced, it would be less realistic. So, you know, having some a bit thicker than others is totally okay. Okay, I would set that aside and let it dry for a little bit, but we're gonna go ahead and finish this mushroom. So here's my stem, and I am going to use hot glue, and I'll put a nice ball of hot glue right on the tip, and then I'll slide that right inside the center. And at this point you can decide, do you want your mushroom head tipped a bit? Do you want it a little bit like this? Okay. I'm sitting here curious, why is this mushroom so much longer than this one?
Are you going to add the bulb on the bottom?
I am going to add the bulb.
Hey, it's nature. Nature varies.
Okay, so here's what I did wrong. Yeah, it's great because I love the different variations. If you want a longer stem mushroom, what you would do is go ahead and use the length, but then give it some extra wire on the top, which then you can overlay your stem flare to give it that extra length. But again, if you're making a bunch of mushrooms, do all different lengths. So that's just kind of my, you know, pivot as you go. So now I have the thinner crepe paper here, and I'll go ahead and add some glue to the base.
I love this idea of making an ornament out of these mushrooms. I think that would be so cute on a Christmas tree.
It would be.
Or a wreath. That would be really cute. Add it to
Yeah.
a wreath.
You know, we did these last year as kind of a Halloween light, we like to call it, because it's not super spooky, but it's sort of Halloweenish. But I know, because we've already talked about it, we're doing kind of a woodland themed Christmas this year. So these would be perfect for that. So you might see these coming back. You can see how I'm wrapping the tip and I'm sort of pressing in the crepe paper so that's nice and covered. And then I'm creating this sort of bulb on the base by just stacking the crepe paper. And then when you finish it up, just make sure you have enough glue so that everything stays in place. And this will be ready to place into your little dome or however you want to use this. I like it just unfinished like that. I think this is such a, oh, there we go, such a cute idea. Here's another little tiny one. Like, just loose, they're so cute. Many ways that you can use these.
You could put them in your hair.
Would you? I want to see that, Emily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Halloween costume idea.
So there's my finished mushroom. And here's one with a long stem and one with a bit of a shorter stem, which is nice. It's good to have different heights so that you can, you know, layer them into your container. All right, I wanted to show you this one here. This is our medium mushroom, which is the one in the dome, and you'll notice that the top of it flares out in a different direction. This is our large mushroom. The medium and the extra large look very similar, but they're just different sizes. The large and the small mushroom have a bit different variation. So those are the two I'm going to show you next. It does say cut 3 on this little crepe paper bit, so I'm going to cut 3. I'll cut 2 more here. Just have to make sure I'm going the right direction. I guess this is a demo on how to cut this material today. Oh, also, you know, we got the Glowforge Aura, and I was trying out some different papers, and one of the first ones I did was, will it cut honeycomb? It cut it beautifully. I was kind of amazed. I would love to use it more for cutting some honeycomb, maybe doing some ornaments for Christmas. So this mushroom top has a bit more of a teardrop shape. There we go. How many of you are there working along with me? You might want to wait. You'll wait till after the video's done, just in case I run into any more of my little goof ups. That was a real question though. Who's working along? The silence is killing me.
Why? People are loving it.
Okay, so I've cut 2 more, so I have all 3. And I'm doing this one in a little bit different order, but it doesn't matter. You know, there's all these different parts as long as you get them done at some point. So I'll add just a very, very thin layer of glue. This one's easier to line up because it's very distinct in its shape. And there we go. And since I'm doing this first, it will give it a bit more time to dry. This is almost a little heart shape. I just love honeycomb. It's so, I don't know, there's something about it. It's so vintage. Looks like there was a bit that didn't adhere there. Let's see. And of course, you know, we have quite a few honeycomb projects on our site that's made where you actually make your own honeycomb, not from tissue paper, and it's not quite this fancy, but they're still really, really cool projects. Okay, so we'll do the same thing where we have our mushroom top, and we'll start with that. Make it into a loop. I find that it's easier to make the full circle, the top, when I stretch out the edge first. And that's why letting it dry for a second's a good idea so it doesn't pop open. I know I have 2 more of these circles here, so. It's just kind of a gentle hand of flattening it out. And then kind of pressing down those little ruffles. You could also, you know, maybe set a book on top of it if that will help flatten it while you're preparing your little glue dots. A book or a glass, a mug.
Poisonous death cap mushroom.
There we go. Poisonous death caps. Why not? They're so beautiful. Just don't eat them. Although you could eat these.
They wouldn't taste very good.
I'm not saying they would. Okay, so here's this stem and this flare. So I'm going to decide, here's a tip since I did it wrong the last time. I'll decide how long do I want my stem, and I can, you know, tell more or less, here's where the top will hit, this mushroom is this tall, that one's that tall. Maybe I want this one to set right under, and that will give me an indicator on how long to make my stem.
I definitely think you could make these in any color, or even add some paint on the top if you wanted to add like
Sure.
those Amanita spots. I think that would be so cute.
You could. And you know, they technically they do come in white, but seriously, you could make them in any color. I mean, yeah.
Especially with those little white gills.
Yeah, exactly. I think they would look really cute in pink. But you know me. I think that when I was Emily's age, a long time ago, I hated the color pink. So, what happens? Brittany just gave me a funny face.
Oh, no, because I feel the same way. Not anymore.
And now it's one of my favorite colors. So I'm just going to give it a couple of coats. This is a smaller mushroom, so I'm not adding quite the thickness and the bulk that I did for the last mushroom.
Pan pastels would definitely be a fun material to add into this. See how it lays on that.
On that honeycomb.
Be fun.
Yeah. I also thought about, I've seen this before where you can add just a dab of glue on the edge of your honeycomb and then dip it into glitter.
Ooh.
Right?
Glittery mushrooms.
Oh yeah, I think that would be really cute.
That'd be great for your ornaments.
There we go. Well, there we go. There's some projects we
And I
need
have
to
a
work
question
on.
for you.
Yes.
Could you make these at any size? Could you downsize them or upsize them?
You totally could. I think downsizing is all about how small your fingers can work. Of course, the honeycomb, this is the smaller honeycomb size, so kind of think of that. Like how small could you make them and the honeycomb would still make sense, you know? So, but absolutely, yeah. All right, then I have my little flare here. Do the same thing. Just stretch it out. And then we'll add it onto the top of our stem. And you can see how I do have a gap here where the stem base is, there's a bit more because I want the stem longer, and that's fine because this will just cover it right up. How are we doing on time? All right, good. We have just enough time to make the small one, which is a bit different. And you can see I put some glue in the top, and then I'm just pinching and rolling it between my fingers, and that will get it nice and tight and ready to slide into the mushroom. Okay, everything's so scattered on my table here. All right, so go ahead and do the same thing where I'm going to trim off the flattage. You do not have to do this. If you don't have pinking shears, don't worry about it. This is just kind of a fun little texture to add. So on this cap, I want it to flare out the other direction. So I want it to go upward instead of downward. So this would be facing up. You can see it here. And when I open up my mushroom, I have to kind of look at it, you guys. The bulb area, the bulb side will actually be the center. Oftentimes what I like to do though when I'm opening these is I'll go both directions just to kind of stretch it and give it equal shape. So right now I have the pointed towards the center, but before I glue it in, I definitely want to flip it back the other direction and make the dome towards the center. So let's see. I'm going to do it this direction this time. I'm going to do it a little different. I'm going to add the glue onto the mushroom top and then place the honeycomb. then I would go in and add some glue to make sure all of these bits are in place. I'll just do a little bit to show you, but you know what I'm talking about. It's just really very, very slight. You just want it to kind of hold its shape. And if you feel like your honeycomb is sticking out beyond, you can trim it down, but I actually think it looks pretty cute to have those little feathers kind of floating out. All right, so I would do something like that, and then go ahead and add that dot of glue. And you can put it on your stem or you can put it on inside, either way, and then slide it in. And I would add some extra glue to this to hold it in place, but there you can see how you have that dome going reverse, like this. So there's two varieties. I'm just going to show you just in case you guys decide you want to do this. If you feel like this is sticking out too far, you could just go in and give it a little haircut.
We did have a question. When you made the mistake in the first mushroom, can you show what happened with that piece of honeycomb so that we know what not to do?
Which mistake? So that mistake?
Not that one.
Okay, so this one. This is the one where I only cut one piece rather than three. And you just, it's not like it's horrible, but it's just not as pretty. So this is, see how much more of a thicker honeycomb, where this one's pretty stretched out. Looks pretty cool though. Look, I think there's another mushroom that looks more like this. Emily, do you know the name of it?
I don't know mushrooms. I don't know why you keep asking me why
well,
about
for
mushrooms.
some reason, I think that I feel like you should know mushrooms. Okay.
I know shiitake mushrooms. And
the ones at the grocery store, yeah. I actually have never foraged for mushrooms before, so I'm also kind of new at this. All right, so for this last mushroom, Emily, I'm going to hand you some scissors and you can cut these out for me.
Oh no, I don't know if you trust me.
Just cut two. All right, so this one, it's a little different, and there's only two pieces. So we have the top itself, the honeycomb top, and then the one piece of crepe paper. And the difference is that I have this spot here where I say fold. We'll go ahead and give that a fold. Fold it against itself and press it nice and flat. It's funny because you know how I called out the wrong crepe paper initially? This is the lighter crepe paper and this is the darker. So again, I love the variety.
Yeah, it was the cream color.
Yeah. So I'm stretching out just the edge of the fold so that it gives this nice little bump out like this. And I'll take my wire, and I do want just the length. I don't need anything longer. One thing that I did not finish, you guys, on this medium mushroom is I didn't finish the tip, but you do it that the same way. I'll go back and do that if we have time. Another bonus of wrapping your stem with the crepe paper before you add this little final outer skin is, look at what happens if you don't. Can you see that? You can see the green coming through. You might not be able to on camera. So this actually kind of tones everything down. This is the easiest of them all, of course, since we only have two pieces. But I love having that variety of having the different shapes, tops down, tops up, and then this little baby. Thank you. And as far as how thick you want to wrap your stems, that's up to you. Just kind of eyeball it. Again, the nice thing about these mushrooms, it takes such little material that you can have a few practice rounds and you're not really wasting a whole lot.
And apparently there are mushrooms called bullets. Did I say that right? Bullets that have pores and holes instead of gills that look a bit like the mistake honeycomb.
I love it. All right, got to do my homework. Let's make some more mushrooms. Okay, so when I place this, I want to make sure and slide this down a bit. So what I think I'll do is I'll glue it from the fold down first. So that everything's secure and in place. I do love how fast this art glitter glue dries, and if you guys are wanting art glitter glue, go get it now. We are going to be stopping shipping here as soon as the weather turns cold because it's a water-based glue. It doesn't like the cold weather to ship. Okay, see how I'm using my fingers to kind of push and create the peak there? And I'll use the fingertips to press it together to give this nice little ridge all the way around my mushroom. Can you see that? Then I'll go ahead and use my glue tip to slide it under and put that back into place. That looks good. Let's make sure everything is. I don't know if you can see the color difference of my crepe paper. And I'll do the same where glue all of the 3 layers together. And then I'll glue them into a circular form. This is where it gets fun. Probably a good idea to set it aside for a minute and let it dry. But we're running out of time and I want to make sure and get everything covered today. Right now is a great time to ask any questions if you have any.
Apparently it's pronounced bolitas.
I don't know about you guys, but I always do the Google search pronounce. And it tells me out loud in a recording.
Mm-hmm.
So on this one, because the top we want it to be nice and tight, what I will do, you can do this with hot glue if you feel like the white glue is better. I'm going to hold it so I just barely have an opening and carefully and sort of deeply drop a dot of glue and then just kind of press it together. Since I'm not putting any crepe paper on the top of this, this will be the finished top.
Elaine just said, thank you, Leah, for the fabulous inspiration. Loved the flower arranging class.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was so good, you guys. It was such a delight to see everybody go through that class. The team knows how nervous I was because it was kind of a big undertaking, and I knew it was different than anything we'd ever done. So, whew, I'm so happy. All right, so it's all glued into place, and I'll go ahead and finish the base. And I feel like I want a thinner crepe paper, so I'm going to cut myself a nice, I don't know, maybe closer to 1/4 inch strip. It's nice and thin. Yeah, for those of you who did do the arrangement class, I think we're gonna ask you for your feedback at some point. We want to hear from you on how we can even make it better. So we want you to share your thoughts. So here I'm stacking it to give kind of a little bulb and making sure that my end gets a nice seal, so you can kind of press it together at the base. You can also flip it around and add some crepe underneath and just sort of mold it. I love how, you know, when you're working with crepe paper and this white glue, it almost becomes like, I wouldn't say clay, but it sort of molds with you. Look how nice that just molded into this little end cap there. And when you're putting these tips on, I do like to keep them low. I don't go up the stem because I really love the grain of the crepe paper, creating that texture. So I just keep them very much at the base. All right. So there is our little small version. And in two different, a little bit different. One has the crease down further and one is up a little bit further. Whoop, whoop. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. Now that I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and finish this one. I'm going to show you what it looks like you can also try a hot glue, which might work faster, where you just drop a line of hot glue and then press that onto the honeycomb edge. It might be a bit faster to do that. And you can't see the hot glue, it's really hidden. We're gonna have so many mushrooms in this office. Gonna have to make some mushroom soup or something. I'm kidding. All right, and now I'll finish my stem. Any last minute questions? We're almost done here today.
Are you going to make a moth?
I can. I don't think we have enough time to make a moth, but let's see if we do. So on the moths, what I found work a little bit better, we lost the moth here on the top. We had one on the top of the dome, but it got bumped off in our move. But you can see there's a moth here inside of this dome. And the way that I styled it was I put one inside the dome and then I put one just actually sitting on top of the glass. And the thing that I found worked really well with the moths is to pre-stretch your crepe paper to make it nice and thin, almost this papery moth wing look. And then just use your wire to hold everything in place. And they're really quite simple to make. That's something, if you really want to cut it with the crepe paper or with the cutting machine, that would be a good one to cut with the cutting machine, but cut it pre-stretched because they're such tiny pieces. You could also use extra fine crepe paper if you wanted to and not pre-stretch them. All right. And there we go. So here's our mushrooms. We have 5 more now. The medium mushroom, which is this one here, is almost exactly the same as the large. It's just a different size, so it's the same steps. And then we have the other 2 varieties.
Yay. And people are feeling really inspired by this, loving watching you work. And we've got some great ideas making some wreaths with moss and mushrooms. I think that'd be so pretty.
Well,
and a lot of people saying they loved the arrangement class as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, these would be fun. Wouldn't it be fun to use these in an arrangement for kind of a Halloween or even a Thanksgiving or fall? Maybe we can look at what to do with these because I have 5 more mushrooms now that I can play with. For those of you who are members, I just wanted to give you a quick reminder that we have our Member Make in 2 weeks. And Megan is going to teach us how to make these gorgeous pink sunflowers up here. So this is my type of sunflower because it is pink. But these are so pretty and I can't wait to put these into an arrangement as well. All right, any other questions? We're good to go? All right,
we're good to go.
Yeah, if you have any questions, if you're watching this in the replay, go ahead and type them into the comments and I will pop in and answer those for you. So we'll see you guys in, what is it, October? For time's flying, for our next one of these Leah Live events, and we'll see you then.